Welcome back to the Football Tragics. I'm your host, Aaron, joined here by Tony, Campo, and Morty's not here, but we've got Baxter, our super sub, our Mr. Regular. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Unlike my opponent next to me, but we'll get into it, eh?
Well, pleasure to have you on board. We've got, the midweek games from last week to get through Matchday 12 plus Matchday 13. That was on the weekend. So big one today. A few results we'll probably just, skim over. Not too much to say. Probably starting with this Brighton 0-0 draw with Nottingham Forest. Tony, across to you. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you have any?
I mean, if it would have just been this week that we're talking about, I would have said points dropped by Brighton, but obviously Nottingham does go on to beat Liverpool, which we'll get on to later. So is this a good result? I think it is for both teams. Brighton aren't going to challenge for too much, maybe conference, maybe Europa, but for Nottingham Forest, it's another point in the right direction of safety.
Yeah, I mean, De Zerbi came in and he won that first game for Brighton. Then since then, he's kind of not done much. They've had a lot of shots this game, 19 shots, 7 on target. They kind of fell into their old ways of being XG merchants and not being able to finish their chances, and that's exactly what happened here. 0 draw at home, I don't think is good enough against, at the time, and they still are bottom of the table. They should be winning this game comfortably, in my opinion. Campo, would you agree with that?
Yeah, they should be winning it comfortably. But you know what? These are the games that Forest had to dig deep and get any kind of points from, and they did. So fair play to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, Baxter, that's who unbeaten now. So what are your thoughts on Forest?
They're pretty good at the moment. Yeah, can't doubt them for any minute here. So good on them.
All right, let's get into Crystal Palace 2, Wolves 1. Probably the way I saw the game going, Wolves, as we can see on the ladder, are 19th, a second bottom. They haven't been unable to get any sort of form going this season. Crystal Palace quite up and down, but they're sitting in 13th. Baxter, back to you straight away. Palace are doing all right this season.
Yeah, Palace are coming out really firing with the Wolves, who are unable to pull some players in. You know, they got Douglas Costa, 39 years old striker, sitting up top. It's not the best. I think they need to go into this transfer market and get some depth into their squad.
Yeah, well, what have they got? A caretaker manager at the minute, so they don't know who they're going to get in. Tony, they took the lead in this game. Is that pretty bad stuff then for them to go and concede 2? I know they're away from home, but a team like Wolves should at least be getting a draw here.
Oh, yes and no. I think I'm a big admirer of what Crystal Palace can do on their day. Obviously, we're in a fantasy comp. I'm running most of that comp, but we're all pretty stoked to get obviously Zaha in, because we did think he had a draw where they could take maximum points over the next couple of weeks. So good result for Palace. Wolves back to the drawing board, maybe sign a few more Portuguese players, and we'll see how it goes.
Campo, what are your thoughts?
Same as everyone else's. I just think Wolves are currently the worst team in the comp at the moment, in my opinion. They offer nothing going forward. They're very unstable at the back, and I can't see any other team going down but them at the moment.
What about the team we're going to get into who did win this game, Southampton? You love to say they're going down. Or is that Morty? I can't remember, but they got a win
That's
here.
me.
Well, there you go. Talk to us about Southampton. Their 1-0 win over Bournemouth.
You could say against the run of the play, they look more counter-attacking than usually they are against these kind of clubs. Usually they like to enforce themselves, have high possession and create chances. But if Bournemouth took it to them and they got hit on the counter, and that's all there was for this game.
Yeah, well, it was a goal in the 9th minute, and I'm surprised because you don't really see Southampton holding on to games that often. I feel like they're one of the teams that kind of do concede. So for them to pick up a 1-0 win, I mean, it's against Bournemouth. They'd like to think this is a result they can get. But Bournemouth at the time were unbeaten in, I think, 9, I believe. And they'd also knocked off some decent teams in that run there. So a good result for Southampton. And kind of, again, they're now 3 unbeaten and they're sitting just above the drop zone. So it's a great result for them. What do you think, Tony?
I mean, great result. We sat here a couple of weeks ago and we spoke, is Ralph the next manager sacked? And again, he might not be playing the most entertaining football, but if you can get draws, if you can get wins in the Premier League, it keeps you in a job, it keeps the team up, and you just build towards next year. So happy days if you're a Southampton fan. Not happy if you're Baxter when we talk about the next Southampton game.
Well, before we get into that game, though, what were your thoughts on this one, Baxter, real quick?
Oh, I just thought we were watching a Jose Mourinho masterclass of parking the bus, and it was happy days for Southampton.
Yeah. All right. Well, Liverpool, this is their one good result for the week. 1-0 over West Ham. At home, again, this is a result that Liverpool should be winning comfortably. I mean, there's no excuse for them to not be winning this game. At the end of the day, Liverpool are a top 2, top 3 side. Like, that's their expectation. So they should be picking up results. So for me, it's an expected result. West Ham have really struggled to get going. They're kind of now getting there, but Liverpool had 22 shots this game. So 1-0 from a Darwin Núñez goal, it's probably not enough when you think about it. They should be killing this game off, because I think towards the end it got a bit troubling. Campo, what are your thoughts on that?
I think West Ham will be absolutely kicking themselves, because the chances they had in this game, they were clear cut as day. They could have won this game 4-1 with the chances they had. The penalty, just so many good chances West Ham bottled, and luckily for Liverpool, Van Dijk's home record stays intact.
Baxter, I think I've asked the other boys. I mean, we all kind of know our own thoughts on Darwin Núñez, but I've not heard yours yet. What are your thoughts on him? Do you think he's going to come good, or are you not confident?
He's untested at the moment. He had one good season in the Portuguese league last season. He did an okay season in the Champions League, and they racked up $100 million for him. He's, as I said, he's yet to be tested, and maybe he has the cobweb years this year, and next year he comes out all guns blazing like Haaland. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I mean, apart from City, if there's any team you want to go to who create chances out of nothing, it'd be Liverpool, right? Like they do score goals for fun for the most part. Not this season, but usually, you've seen how Salah creates his chances, how many goals he can score. So a player like Darwin Núñez should be scoring 20 goals in a season, in my opinion. And I suppose for him to get maybe 10 this season even, it's all right, because he is young. Tony, what do you reckon?
I mean, I think he's been punished this year purely based on how poor Liverpool's playing. You put him in any Liverpool team for the last 3 or 4 years, he's probably already sitting on 10, 12 goals like Haaland. But obviously, teams do have a lull period. And if this is Liverpool's lull period, it's now, can he take them out of that? Or do they have to look elsewhere in the next year or so to try and find that striker that can get him out of that hole?
I don't think Darwin Núñez can do it on his own. I don't think he is, a match winner, for example, but he's going to score goals. I think he's going to be on the end of goals. But let's go away from goals for a minute. 0 draw, Brentford, Chelsea, my boys. I think, I don't want to say Brentford. I don't want to say Brentford like one of those teams that you can take a point away from, because then they go and got done a bit later, which we'll get into. But I mean, a 0 draw at Brentford, a clean sheet away at Brentford's not that bad, because they have looked at times a big team, a big, a team that can come to a bigger club and beat them. So, look, it wasn't a great result. We've loved 3 points, but Brentford are a decent team on their day, and I think it could have gone either way. I think Brentford deserved a bit out of this game, so they got it. We'll go back to the drawing board. Obviously, we didn't kind of pay off yet, but yeah, for me, 0 draw at Brentford's not the worst result in the world. Tony, what are your thoughts? And you had the pillow there for a minute, so you wouldn't have too much to say, surely.
Mate, Brentford's a great team, especially how they smashed us. I've got to say that. I can't really say they're a shit team and then look at a 4-0 result that we copped at the start of the year. But, I mean, we saw it last year. We saw it for the most part this year at home. Brentford are hard to break down. 0 draw, you take the point, you move on. For Chelsea, again, still a new manager, still new systems coming into play. It's going to take time. So you take a draw, you get away from Brentford. It's not a loss. And what are your ambitions? Does anyone really think they're going to win the league besides City? Maybe an Arsenal fan if they're a bit deluded, but the league's a 2-horse race. So to take a point, you push towards Champions League, it's good enough from this game.
Mate, you forgot about the Spurs fan right here. Campo, you guys are going to win the league, right?
That was 3 weeks ago. That's done.
Well, Campo, talk to us about Brentford then, not Spurs at the minute.
I don't know, just a snooze fest. No one really created anything clear cut, and kind of a dead game. So fair result.
Baxter, Kepa. I want to talk to you about Kepa. What are your thoughts on him? He's kind of been reborn under Potter and kind of looks probably one of the best keepers in the league currently.
Yeah, well, he just recently got married to a new hot wife, so maybe that's why he's been playing so good. He has no home troubles at the moment. The wedding is all done and dusted, so maybe that's why he's coming playing out of his skin at the moment. But yeah, hats off to him. He's playing well, and Brentford, good to get the draw. I think it's great. They sit 11th at the moment, so it's happy days for them. Second year syndrome.
I mean, speaking of, I suppose, good players at the minute, what about likes of Miguel Almiron and the other lads playing at Newcastle? Talk to me about them, Campo. What are your thoughts on Newcastle? I mean, they're absolutely smashing it.
This is all Jack Grealish's fault. Putting the sole blame on him for taking the mickey out of Almiron and making him a superstar. So hats off to you, Jack. But just the way Newcastle play under Eddie Howe, the free-flowing attacking football, they've made so many smart signings without blowing the budget. Just hats off to them. They deserve all their wins they're getting at the moment. So you can't ask for more if you're a Newcastle fan.
Tony, did you expect their rise to happen so quick?
I mean, I thought it was going to take a year or two, but I thought they were also going to do it differently. I thought they were going to go out, and yes, they did splash the money, but it wasn't like 100 million player. They bought in the areas they wanted. They needed a defender. They got a defender. They needed a midfielder. They got Bruno Guimaraes. They needed a striker. They brought in the striker. So whoever is in charge of their recruitment, mate, A+ effort. And if you're a Newcastle fan, I'm not going to say you're only there because of the money, because you might be at this stage, but you do have a history. So I'm happy for them, and we have a few Newcastle mates, so good luck to them.
Baxter, thoughts on Everton? They created one shot and had 0 on target this game. I mean, they're out of the relegation zone. They're not as close, but they're still kind of threatened. I think they're still kind of hovering around there.
Yeah, they're just trying to find their feet under Lampard. I think he's got them going. We'll touch into the next game, but Newcastle, if the season stops right now, they're playing Champions League. So this time last year, they were championship bound. So now Championship.
Come on, mate. Baxter, don't jump ahead, because we haven't spoken about the next game when they get into the Champions League spots. They're still not in the Champions League spot after this game.
Well, I'm looking at the current ladder. So, yeah, they're in my Champions League spot. So, as Tony said, they bought the right players in the right areas. Eddie Howe's doing an amazing job up there at Newcastle. So, hats off to them, and hope they keep going.
All right, this game involves 2 of the lads here, Tony, Campo. Campo, we're starting with you. You said you'd never win at this ground. What was your thoughts on the 2-0 defeat away at Old Trafford?
The start of the game, we had pretty much three CDMs in the midfield. So it was just, if we got the ball, hoof it up to Harry Kane and Son and just try your best. We gave ourselves no chance to create any space. But United were playing in the lines really quick, just piercing our defense and our midfield to shreds. But they didn't create any real clear-cut chances. Hugo was making great saves left, right, and center, but they're all from 25 yards out. No, come on. What clear-cut chance did you create? That was like...
Rashford had 3 one-on-ones in the box.
Are you watching the right game?
Yeah, but Rashford having a chance is not clear-cut, Tony. Come on.
It is in Paris. If you have a night in Paris, it is.
But I could only probably recall one chance that I thought Rashford 100% goal. The others was just defenders around him, closing him in. But we just got bullied off the ball time and time again. United had that high press, but we made them look incredible because we played like absolute shit. So
yeah, you definitely made them look incredible. I mean, Tony, 28 shots, 10 on target for United. Like, did you look at the lineup that Spurs put out and thought 3 defensive midfielders, they're not going to be able to create anything anyway. As long as we can break them down, we'll win the game?
Oh, 100%. When I first saw that lineup, I went, holy shit, for a team with that much attack, they have gone so defensive that it was almost as if Jose Mourinho was still in charge. He's come to a big team. Honestly, he's parked the bus and he's like, if I can get out of Old Trafford with a point, I'll take it. Now, again, we didn't... I don't want to look at just the chances we created, because we did have chances. We had 10 shots on target. I think they said Hugo Lloris was second for man of the match in a 2-0 losing side. So that shows you how big he was. The expected goals were almost at 4.8. So there was a lot of chances that we should have put away, but in the end, you get a result against Tottenham, a team that was flying, that was in the top 4 at this stage. I look at the changes now, like Campo said, the pressure as soon as they touch the ball, Luke Shaw and that pushing forward, putting pressure on those defenders. That's where we're winning the ball back, because the ball would go to your centre back. They'd get pressed. It'd be a long ball to Martinez or Varane. He'd knock it out wide. So I'm more looking at the improvements United have made rather than the team we went against. But when a team parks the bus and you can still put 2 goals away, Pastor Fred to the rescue.
Before we get into the big topic of this game, Baxter, what are your thoughts then? Being an Arsenal fan, I mean, you can gloat that Spurs coughed up a loss here.
Oh, this was a great game to watch. Yeah, defensively poor from Tottenham, attacking wise great from United. There's nothing else to say but take the L, Campo.
Hey, you lost 2-3.
It won't be the only one he takes today, but Tony, obviously that big talking point, Ronaldo refusing to come on. What do you make of the whole situation? Is his time finally up? Are they going to be able to get rid of him in January?
I mean, hey, if a club wants to pay for him, he can go. But if not, I look at if we've only got, let's say, 2 months left until that January transfer window before we go to the World Cup. No Martial. Rashford's shown he can't be that striker that we do need through the middle. We have to put him out wide. For example, he's going to have to get used to playing 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever he gets, because I'm sorry, we've looked a whole lot better with Erik ten Hag putting him on the bench and abusing that pace of Anthony, Sancho, Rashford. So for him to not want to go on, it's a bit of immaturity, but I'd also be frustrated if I was a player of his caliber and I wasn't playing week in, week out. So I think both parties just have to say January, listen, Ronaldo, see you later, and go from there. But I don't think he goes unless we sign another out-and-out striker.
You've got to wonder in his situation. Obviously, he probably doesn't want to be there because he's not playing the football he wants to. He's made it clear he wants to play Champions League football, this and that. But for him, it looks as though no club's going to sign him because they don't want to pay his crazy wages. So for him, you've got to suck it up and stay at United then if you want to keep your wages. Otherwise, you need to take a pay cut. You've got all the money in the world. Take a pay cut. I'm not saying you go and sign for a club for 20K a week, but there's clubs out there who still pay 150K a week. You know, like he probably doesn't need the money. He's got endorsements. He's got everything under the sun. So if he wants to play Champions League football, then...
Well, I mean, I will say fair play to him. He obviously the punishment went in. He apologised. Let's just call it an apology. But there was rumours he rocked up an hour and a half early to youth league training because that's what he had to train with. So whether that's him going, I fucked up, I've got to be there. At least he turned around, he got there. Who knows what's going to happen? But, I mean, Ronaldo's a player. No one's bigger than the club. So in Ten Hag, we trust.
Yeah, I think you never doubt his work rate. I think he's always proven to be, and that's how he's gotten so good in his career, is the fact that he works hard. So it'd be nice to see it turn around for him. I'd love to see him start. He's still obviously a goal scorer. He knows what he's doing. But, yeah, you're right. You do look a whole lot better without him in the starting lineup. So, all right, let's get into another legend. It was the one that got him sacked, though. 3-0 loss for Villa at Fulham. Stevie G is gone. Another manager out the door. Campo, what are your thoughts on Stevie G's reign at Aston Villa?
It started off very well, but it just fell to an absolute pile of dog shit. The players, it just looked like he lost the dressing room. They weren't playing for him anymore. And you could see the fans even turned on him, chanting the Demba Ba chant at that game. They all turned on him, so it made sense to get rid of him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I fully agree. Baxter, time to go, was it? Or do you think there was still a way you could have turned it around?
No, I think it's all on the players. Like, you look at it here, they're 1-0 up, and then they get a red card, Douglas Luiz, and then they go on to score a goal, a Mitrovic goal, and an own goal from Tyrone Mings. I don't think he should have been sacked. I know his replacement will be happy to be there, but you know they lost Douglas. What's his name, Luiz or whatever
Carlos.
his name is, Carlos. Sorry, the first game of the season, so he hasn't had his star centre back all this season. So give him some break, and it's not a bit. It hasn't even been 12 months. if that's the case, we should have sacked Arteta last year, 3 games after into the season. So you got to realize these clubs, you got to give these managers some time to sort of build and bring their philosophy into the club and down to the youth players to bring them through and create a good club like Klopp has. But obviously Villa want to go a different way. These players need to pick up, and they did the next game, but it just shows there's something wrong there.
Look, I do feel for him in the fact that he did lose Diego Carlos to injury straight away. He made his changes. He stripped Tyrone Mings of the captaincy. He gave it to John McGinn. I think that was a good decision because Tyrone Mings has been useless. But his record's not been great. He came to the club. He managed to get Coutinho to sign for them. He's made these signings. And Coutinho, he lit up the Prem for 3 weeks maybe, but then since then has been doing nothing. And when you're signing those caliber of players who are probably on decent wages at a team like Villa, they need to be producing for you. Otherwise, your head's on the chopping block. I think at 1-0, maybe he wouldn't have been sacked. But the fact that the red card went in, they can then go and concede 2 straight after. It finishes 3-0. The fans have already turned on you, like Campo said. It was definitely time to go. And, I mean, yeah, I don't know where he goes from here because he's not going to get another job in the Prem. He's not going to go and get his move to Liverpool now. So does he go back to Rangers? I don't know. Tony, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I said on the second episode of the season that he wouldn't last Christmas. He wouldn't be there when they went to the World Cup. So it doesn't come as a shock to me. Yes, he can get games where you think, oh, my God, they've turned the season around. But, I mean, overall, he hasn't done a good job. I think, like I said, he got that move away from Rangers way too soon. I think if he was going to come to the league, he needed a team that was stable. They had that stability. They had the players now. He's gone out. He's shown that he can sign players, but if you can't get them to play and you can't have the fans on your side, you don't have a good club. And just lastly, on Baxter's point, don't forget Arteta was 3 games away from getting sacked last year, and that was 10 games into the season. So he did a lot better than what Gerrard's done playing-wise. So it's no shock to me that he got the sack.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move into the final game of this round. Leicester's 2-0 win over Leeds. I mean, since then, they go and get another win. So Leicester, they've turned a leaf. Brendan Rodgers' job is as safe as houses now, it seems. Campo, what are your thoughts on Brendan Rodgers staying at the helm and Leicester actually picking up some wins?
I think Brendan Rodgers is pretty safe because, yeah, you can sack Rodgers, but who's better on the market than him?
Daddy.
I can't really think.
Zidane,
won't go.
But the problem is, though, Villa tried to get the likes of Poch and Zidane, and they turned them down. So they turned him down. So why he's not going to go to Leicester, like Poch especially.
No. So realistically, they might get Steven Gerrard if they're lucky. But
if they're unlucky.
But I think they've got the complete faith in Rodgers to turn it around. And look, he gave that Kieran Dewsbury Hall a run, and he's actually starting to turn into quite a tidy midfielder. He's pulling some assists every week that I'm starting to notice, and fair play. So Rodgers knows what he's doing at the helm, so I think he'll be there for a while.
Yeah. Baxter, what are your thoughts on this one? And more so Leeds.
It was a great game for Leicester. I'm with Morty, though. Get Rodgers out. He's useless. But unlucky Leeds, they need to look at something to get some wins on the board.
Tony, it'd be music to your ears seeing Leeds crumbling like this.
I mean, hey, Leeds are in relegation. They lost. I think that's enough for me. You can see the smile on my face. Let's just hope it continues for a little bit. But I will say they'd lose, obviously, taking away the next game we're going to speak about. If they lose the next 2 or 3, I think Marsh will be the next one gone as a manager.
Yeah, we'll get into, obviously, Leeds in a little bit. But before, we have to all talk about this one. This is a big one. Nottingham Forest is the first game of this week. I mean, it's 1-0 win over Liverpool. This is a game that I thought was finishing 4-5-0. This was, for me, the game that Liverpool would have done like they did to Bournemouth and put 9 past them and turned it around and everybody says they're back again. But no, Forest held strong, got a 1-0 win, and it was courtesy of the bloke who Liverpool released. Tony, give us your thoughts.
I'm not going to lie here. I'm not taking the piss. If you're a Liverpool fan, you're listening to this, I'm not taking the piss here. But I was watching this game. No, I'll be honest. I was watching this game. I can't remember what else I was watching in the background, but I think it was like the 60th minute, and I had to get up my phone and go onto live scores because I didn't know if Salah was on the pitch. I was like, why did they rest him? Like, he honestly, I didn't know he was on. So if you've got arguably last year, the year before, one of the best players in the world, and I can watch a 60-minute game and I'm thinking, where's Salah? You've got a bit of a problem here now. Great result. I mean, Nottingham Forest, point against Brighton, 3 points against Liverpool. You go back 3-4 weeks. Do you think they thought they were going to get any points from those games? No. So 2 points away from relegation, 4 points out of a possible 6. Happy days if you're a Forest fan and Liverpool fans. This is where I take the piss. Suck on that.
So I don't want to say this is one of the biggest results in Nottingham Forest history because they're 2-time Champions League winners, for God's sake. They've won the Champions League more times than half the teams in the Prem and in Europe and all that. So they're probably one of the biggest teams in the world. But in recent history, this is bloody huge for them to knock off, a Premier League winner in COVID years. Doesn't count. But they probably didn't deserve this result, but they did just in the merit they stuck in there and gave it a real go. And you do look at the stats and they're pretty even for the most part. They had a number of shots, and if had it been more clinical, could have actually won this 3 or 4-0 because Liverpool looked crap, but Nottingham Forest just took it to them, and it just shows. These results for clubs who are fighting relegation, it's huge, and hopefully it stirs their season on. But Baxter, do you think they'll turn this result into form, or is it kind of one-hit wonder kind of result?
You have to turn this into form. Henderson played out of his skin, in his cap. Liverpool, they're the modern-day Robin Hood. They're taking points from the rich and giving it to the poor. They're burning down the city, but saving the Forest in the meantime. As Tony said, Salah was nowhere to be. We thought he was this hotshot player who's, since Mane's gone, he's turned to dust. Klopp, 70 syndrome, probably. He's my next one on the chopping block.
Campo, is it Klopp out?
I don't know. I don't think it's Klopp out because, yes, if they're not going to change the players they have, but if they're going to rebrand this squad, then you're going to need Klopp at the helm for that because if you look at their players, Harvey Elliott gets in Mo Salah's way. The likes of Thiago, he is not a Wijnaldum. He doesn't get box to box. As crafty as he is not Wijnaldum. Luiz, as good as he's been, he is not Mane. Mane creates an abundance of chances for him and Salah, makes those runs. And Darwin Núñez is not Firmino. He does not drop in, create the space for the other wingers to go in. So,
but Firmino started this game.
Yeah, I know, but it's just the other likes of Curtis Jones, Carvalho. They're all young, and you look at the downfall of Van Dijk. If he's not on it, you see how bad Trent is, even though he didn't play in this game. Van Dijk covers so much of Trent's downside. So if he's not at 110%, they just get exploited every week. So if they can do a full rebuild, Klopp has to be the man to take him back to the Champions League. But if they're going to try and stick with this core of players, they're going to need a new identity.
Yeah, look, I don't think Klopp's getting a sack. I think the owners would love him too much. I think the city loves him too much. It would take an awful effort to get him sacked. But Tony, this squad is pretty old when you think about it. There's quite a few Asian players, and then you've got a bunch of youngsters. No real middle ground there. Is Champions League off the cards for them, or is it still doable?
I don't think it's off the cards, but there is something I want to show Liverpool fans just because I like to be a little bit of a prick sometimes. So I don't think it's off the cards, but I'll just pop this up onto the screen and to all you Liverpool fans, cop that. So
look at that hat. I love the keepers wearing a hat.
But yeah, I don't think it's off the cards. I've spoken to this one about Baxter off air, and Baxter, I'll go to you first. We'll go to the boys because I know you were the one to ask me this question.
Yeah,
boys, does Trent go to the World Cup? Does he go to the World Cup? I know he's injured, but does he go to the World Cup with how many players that could arguably be ahead of him?
He does because Reece James is out injured. Kyle Walker's probably out injured. They're going to have to take him. Otherwise, who are they taking?
Ben White.
Play back 3, play back 5. You don't need him there.
They do play a back 5, and somehow he still plays.
Put Luke Shaw there, mate. He's doing a better job than what Trent's doing at the moment.
I definitely agree that Ben White should be on the plane given the fact that half the players are unfit. But there's no way Trent should be seeing the pitch, in my opinion. I think he'll make it, but I don't think he should see the pitch. Campo, what do you reckon?
I agree, just because of all the injuries that the English right backs have suffered. Trippier's going to start, and I think Trent's going to be the backup.
Let me just ask the future England potentially number one. What do you think of Trent? Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Let's move on from Liverpool. We don't have Morty's opinion, unfortunately, because. But look, we're staying in Merseyside. Everton 3-0 over Palace. I mean, this is a Palace team who we just kind of gave a bit of credit to, an Everton team who we didn't give credit to. But this result for me was so off cuff. I didn't see it coming at all. I love to see Everton do well. I want to see Lampard do well, but for me, a 3-0 over Crystal Palace. I mean, it's massive for Everton, just the way they are right now. I mean, Calvert-Lewin scoring, Gordon scoring, like two players who are Everton through and through. Baxter, what are your thoughts on this one? Again, is this a game that should be turning a season around for Everton?
I think this is a speed hump for Palace. I think it's just one of these off days. You go to Everton at home. You go to Everton away, and the place is rocking. Lamps has got the crowd rocking. He's got the team firing, and Gordon to get his good goal. He's a good up-and-coming England player. So I think for Everton, this is good. But Palace shouldn't worry too much about this loss.
Yeah, well, we know what happened last time these two played at Goodison Park. It was the game that ultimately kept Everton up. Campo, so what are your thoughts on the game?
It's good to see Calvert-Lewin returning back from an injury, getting some actual game time. You can tell that Everton lack a striker. They went and signed Neil Morpay, whatever his name is, Morpay, but he is terrible. He's not an out-and-out striker. So to have him back in the lineup, you can see he already adds more directness, more goals into that squad. But as we said, Palace are an up and down team, and this week they were just down.
Yeah, I can agree. Tony?
Oh, I mean, we already know that Everton can defend. They've got one of the best defenses in the Premier League. The last couple of weeks probably did hurt that a little bit, but I mean, they still have only conceded, I think it's 12 goals in the Premier League. So we know they can defend, and I think this is more of Everton took their chances. They had 6 shots on target. They scored 3 of them. Again, Palace, it's a bad result, but like Baxter said, don't think too much into it. Fix what you need to fix. Get on to the next week.
Yeah. All right, let's move into probably the best team in the league, which is crazy to say because they're not top of the table. City 3-1 over Brighton. Just comfortable for them. Routine stuff, Tony?
I mean, Haaland didn't get a hat-trick, so I wouldn't call it too routine. He likes to do that in home games in the Premier League. But, I mean, it is what it is. They got the result. They did it arguably comfortably. The scoreline probably doesn't reflect the amount of dominance that they did have in this game. But, mate, was it De Bruyne that scored the absolute cracker in this game? Was that who it was? Mate, if you've got a midfielder that can do that and you've got Haaland in the box, fuck me, that's a scary thought.
Yeah, I mean, Pep came out and said that De Bruyne's not even playing at his best. So if that's not his best, it'd be crazy to see what he can do. I mean, we've kind of seen it already this season, what he's been doing for Haaland. Campo, that first goal that Haaland scored, long ball from Edison, bully ball by Haaland just to finish it off.
I thought that was kind of a foul. He kind of just extended the arm. That's usually, I feel like that's given as a foul. But just dominant from City. But I read this weird stat that Brighton were the first team to beat Manchester City in possession since the last team that did that was Brighton.
Oh.
So Brighton are the only last 2 teams to have beaten Man City in possession in the Premier League for I don't know how long. So Brighton are doing something right. They just don't lack the talent up front to finish any good chances they have.
Yeah. I mean that's impressive, but again, like it kind of doesn't really matter. It just shows possession doesn't win games, unfortunately. Because to go to City and have possession, the only team I can think that probably does that any time recently in the past 5 years would be Liverpool, and even then, I don't think they had possession at City. I think they had it at Anfield. So bloody impressive, but again, doesn't mean much for the grand scheme. I think it then just shows that City can do something other than have possession. They can just score goals on the break. Baxter, I mean, you laugh when I said they're the best team in the league, but are you going to argue it?
Not when you're losing to Liverpool, who do then go down to 1-0 to Nottingham. So they were good this game. They were good off the ball. And don't forget, this is De Bruyne. As you said, he's not playing to his fullest capacity here, but he come third in the Ballon d'Or behind Mane and Benzema. So if he's not playing to his potential, watch out. Look at him break through this season and have a cracking year. If he caps off a Ballon d'Or win, that's his whole life completed. But
No,
City
hasn't won the Champions League yet.
No, many great players haven't won the Champions League. Zlatan,
Harry Kane.
Please. Let's get real here, Kiepo. But yeah, look, City were great. Brighton unlucky. Back to the drawing boards.
Well, let's get into this one then. Chelsea won, United won. I think I can pretty comfortably say that you guys deserve 3 points here, should have got 3 points here. And for us to walk away with, yes, we conceded the 94th minute equaliser, so it hurts. 1 point is ultimately better than none.
Are you asking me or are you going to keep going?
Yeah, no, you're up now.
It's just frustrating because, I mean, we're looking better under Erik ten Hag, and I'm not saying we're going to compete for the title because I still think that's a few years away. But this game, the Newcastle game, obviously the Brighton and Brentford game at the start of the season, from those games, if we would have played how we played against this, we arguably would have deserved 12 points. It's a completely different season at the moment that we're looking at. I'm not going to disagree that it was a pen. It was a pen, but again, my argument then becomes get rid of corners because every single corner is a penalty. I see the exact same thing every single corner. Every free kick that gets whipped into the box, we see the same thing. So is it a pen? Yes. But if you base it on what we see from corners, is it a pen? I don't know. But for me, I look at, again, I go as a United standpoint, couldn't give a fuck about Chelsea right now. We're done with them for a little bit. The passion, when obviously Casemiro puts that ball in, sprints over to the crowd. He's going crazy with the crowd. Martinez is G'ing up the crowd. There's a photo where it looks like Martinez is about to make out with a fan. It's just got like, mate, I don't know who you are, but we're in this together. This is something we haven't seen at United in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. We haven't seen this passion and fight from the players. So fair play and interesting stat. And I'll go to you, Aaron, with this one. He said he was too small to play in the Premier League. He has the best aerial battle percentage in the Premier League. So what are your thoughts, obviously, on Martinez so far this year?
Yeah, I think he's an impressive player for sure. It just shows that, again, aggression is more important than the height, because if you're up for it, if you have that aggression, it can get you further. Because then I look at a player like Van Dijk, who's 6'4" or however tall he is, and he's not aggressive. He's the aura merchant. Everybody calls him that. And it showed this season that players are getting at him, and he doesn't want to borrow it. So imagine if he was aggressive. So yeah, fair play. United signs a good centre back there, and he's come in and showed what Maguire was supposed to do.
Mate, I wouldn't say who, because with Varane going off, there's a big chance we could see either Maguire or Lindelof very soon. So it's a bit scary.
I'd rather have Phil Jones than him.
But to get back, Tony, to your point, you've signed players who are winners. I mean, the only players I could think of who kind of played for the badge were the likes of Marcus Rashford, probably even Lingard, because they came through the team. They know the club inside out. So to sign players like Casemiro, who's a 5-time Champions League winner, has basically completed football, and he still has that passion to win football games at 30, whatever it is. It's the players that United needed, and Ten Hag's definitely improved the team. He's instilled some sort of philosophy and belief, and again, he's not taking any bullshit. He's dropping players like Ronaldo. Could Ronaldo have played this game and made a difference? Possibly, but yeah, he made his point. Said no, you're not playing, and yeah, it's Ten Hag's team. That's the way you got to look at it. So fair play to you guys.
I will say, because you just brought up the Ronaldo thing. Casemiro shut up and saw his time. He saw the game plan, and now look at him. He's just saved us a game. He's been instrumental in the games we have played. The same argument. He could have walked off in the 80th minute the first time he came on. He went on, he trusted in the manager, and he's getting the results. And if Ronaldo does it, I think we can do something special with him.
Yeah. Look, we're getting a bit long on this game and every other game, to be fair. So we'll move on quickly. But for me, yeah, Chelsea. Look, I think that penalty was a penalty, but I agree with you that it comes down to referees at that point, doesn't it? It comes down to the fact that one ref will say it's a pen, one ref won't. It happened in the Arsenal game where Jesus was brought down in the box and wasn't given. So again, there needs to be some sort of black and white, not so much every ref's different kind of thing. So yeah, moving on from that game though, we both take a point there. Leicester again, another win, 4-0 over Wolves. And for me, how the Wolves lost this game 4-0 is completely beyond me. They had 21 shots to Leicester's 5. Campo, I know we kind of skipped over that game without getting to you guys, but for me, talk to me now about Leicester real quick.
The way they won that was because they scored an absolute worldie through Tielemans. Absolute unbelievable technique. Leicester would be crazy to let him go on a free next summer. They have to let him go in January. But again, as I said, Kieran Dewsbury Halls, another assist for Harvey Barnes, them making a nice little team on that left-hand side. So they're taking their chances when they come, even if it's 5 shots in the game, they're scoring 4. So just very clinical at the moment. Yeah,
so clinical. Jamie Vardy off the bench, scoring his 100th goal after turning 30. Baxter, talk to me about Vardy. I thought he was finished. Most people thought he was finished. Is his time up?
Nah, he's a bloke who's doing the opposite of Ronaldo, shutting up and sitting on the bench and coming on when needed. I'm still hashtag B-Rog out. Bring in Ted Lasso. He could probably do a better job and bring Leicester back to their former glories. But Wolves, yet again, I think they're going down. It's going to be interesting for the Championship.
All right, Tony, I want to skip you on this one because we spoke about the other one. Villa 4-0. They get rid of Stevie G and they go and put an absolute clinic against the Brentford team, who I gave credit to, and said you don't smash Brentford only 20 minutes ago. So start us off with this one.
I think it's a good result for Villa, but I mean, we always see this: a club loses a manager, the next guy comes in, they play the absolute house down. We talk about Gerrard losing the fans. We talk about Gerrard losing the players as a whole in the dressing room. New guy comes in. The park was absolutely rocking this game. They were behind the players. They were behind the interim coach. And all you Aston Villa fans, good evening, because you have a new manager.
Yeah, spot on. They've gone out and got Unai Emery. For me, pretty unexpected because it seemed like they were in line to get a number of managers. They were after a lot, and they settled for a manager who already had a club. Campo, what are your thoughts on the appointment?
I don't like him. He'd be a bit of a twat, in my opinion.
Did he ever turn down Spurs? Is that why you call him a twat? Or is there
no, just because he coached Arsenal.
Fair, very fair.
So I hope he does nothing but bad things.
Baxter, move to you. What are your thoughts before we get into Arsenal?
I'm with Campo. I hope he does bad things. And it was good.
All right, well, let's get into Arsenal now. I mean, 1-1 draw at Southampton after taking the lead early against Southampton team who are by no means playing amazing right now. Give us your thoughts.
I sit here and listen to you guys week in, week out, and in my mind, I say I can live without VAR. I can live with human error, and I can deal with it. But that's not the case. We have VAR for a reason. Gabriel Jesus gets manhandled and wrestled to the ground twice, and it's not even looked at. The VAR didn't intervene. We had a headbutting incident that wasn't even looked at. We had one player from Southampton in the defence line who should have been given 4 yellow cards. We looked impressive for the first half, and then they came out and they wanted a point of us, and they did it. They did it whatever means necessary. They went in, they got the grubbiness in the game, and they got their goal. Great goal from them, great goal from us, and they showed why they needed that point. But as I say, VAR, kick it out or use it.
Yeah, I mean, look, great points because I think there's a few good mentions from this game. I fully agree. I've seen clips of all the controversial decisions from this game, and you definitely had at least 3 or 4 clear-cut penalties, red cards, whatever you want to give. Had they have all happened, probably different game. I mean, that red card, the headbutt was 94th minute. So that one doesn't change the game. It should still be given. After I think Lyanko had a great game himself. So would have been unfortunate for him, but it was reckless. I'm surprised it hasn't been taken to by the committee and kind of seen a suspension since then. But Southampton, that second half was brilliant from them after quite a good first half from Arsenal. So it's kind of flipped the switch there. And I think for me, that's what I want to talk about is the fact that Southampton still seem to have this belief. They seem to still want to play for this manager who a lot of fans have now turned on after loving him for so long. And that's why I think that his time's just not up there. I think it's just they need to recruit, they need to sign players, and they'll get somewhere because I think he's a great manager. And then also finally, my last point, Granit Xhaka, he's having a fantastic season, and it just shows that he's added something else to his game because he was never a goal scorer. He scored maybe 1 or 2 a season, and now he's got 5 or 6 or something in a third of the games. So, Tony, I'll start with you. Give us your thoughts on Granit Xhaka and the Southampton situation.
I mean, I think he's done brilliant. It's something we always thought that if you keep his head, if you can keep his cool, he can be that player in the midfielder that they need. Now, he hasn't been able to keep his cool in years past. They've gone out and they've tried to sign player after player after player to try and fix that position, but that position was all along with a manager that can keep him under control. So fair play to Arteta. Now, for Southampton, I mean, it's not that hard to beat Arsenal or draw with Arsenal. Like, come on, guys. United have already done that. It's really not that hard. But we talk about VAR calls. One of the games Baxter was on here last year was United versus Arsenal, where a VAR call went in their favour, where it wasn't looked at with the handball on the floor. We all sat here and said, penalty, red card. Everyone said it, Sky Sports. And Baxter sat here and went, oh, they make errors sometimes. So they make errors sometimes. We move on.
That's why I can live with. That's why I can live with human error. Like if you're not going to use VAR, get rid of it.
But you've got to have it. Like you can't not have it. Like that's like saying
if you're going to have it, use it. There's no point just sitting around in the background.
If Gabriel Jesus getting tackled twice is that every corner, just point straight to the penalty spot because it happens with every single corner. I've seen Ben White do it 16 times this year. Like every player has arms around someone pulling them down from a corner. So again, like Aaron said, the problem is it's up to what the referee decides. It's not up to a black or white rule. It's if the ref goes, yeah, okay, I'll call that. Because if a VAR says, come look at this, that ref's going to go, nah, I don't think it's a penalty anyway. So what's the point? Who knows? They might have talked. We don't know that. We don't know what was said in his ear.
The only way it kind of gets fixed completely, and even then I still don't think it's possible, is the same referees every single game, same linesmen, and also same VAR on every single game, which is just physically impossible. But even then, they're going to see different situations different. They probably have an agenda against some teams. They're from different parts of the country. They're going to probably support.
Yeah, I know. Like Anthony Taylor always gives Chelsea all the calls. Like it's an absolute joke.
Well, I think even Morty during the week was getting up Anthony Taylor. So it's not just me. But Campo, now I get to cross to you. I mean, you're loving it, that's for sure. But Arsenal, this is their first real slip up.
Yeah, it has been the first real slip up, and I think it's because they didn't get the VAR calls for once. That Liverpool game, they should have slipped up at that one, but VAR was on their side that time, so you don't hear them complaining then, do you?
Where are you on the table? Where are you? Oh, can't see ya. Can't see ya.
You should be able to see him because there's only 2.2 spots below you.
Mate, if you're not first, you're last. Just remember that.
All right, you just remember that. You just remember that in a couple of weeks' time.
Before we move on, Baxter, can you tell me can you just say the famous line, we're top of the league for me? Just get it out there.
No.
Yeah, we haven't had anybody in the pod. Every year we have someone in the pod that can say it. We haven't had it yet.
Nah, because the last time Arsenal were this good, we lost the league. The time before that, we lost the league. So that was the 04-05, 07-08 season where we went on this amazing run to start with and we bottled it. So I'm not saying anything. Do I think we were going to win the league? No, but we're going to have a good hot crack at it.
Say it.
And we're going to
just say it.
Just say it.
I'm with Baxter here. There's no point getting belief and hope because it's not going to happen. Let's be real. You're not going to win the league. City's got it wrapped up.
They're got it along good, City, but I reckon we have a good shot with them.
They only lose the league by about 15, 20 points. They'll have a good shot, all right?
All right, let's move on.
We'll see.
Let's move on. Now, is it time for Jesse Marsh to go, Tony? Oh, I saved that question for this game rather than the game before. 3-2 loss at home to Fulham.
I mean, as a United fan, you're asking the wrong person because I say give him a lifetime contract if he gets him relegated. But I don't know. Like, it's a tough one. He came in last year. He did turn him around. We were talking about relegation. He got him into that survival. They survived on, was it the final day that they secured survival 100%? Yeah. So I will say there's not many games to go to the World Cup. It would not shock me if he doesn't return come the back end of that World Cup, if they try and get someone in to work with the squad, because a lot of their players aren't going to the World Cup. So it wouldn't surprise me if he is sacked before then.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke earlier about the Hojera situation. You know, the manager comes in, or even it's caretaker, they kind of change it around, get it going. He kept them up. At the end of the day, he kept them up. They should have built on that momentum, and they should technically now be a safe team. They should be finishing mid-table. I think that's where I had them. I thought they built on this. They did lose Rafinha. Calvin Phillips, I still don't know why Calvin Phillips went. That was stupid. I think he got a rush of blood to his head thinking he's actually going to play for City. The Rafinha situation, can fully understand why he went. But Leeds, they didn't really they did recruit, but they're not world beaters. They're not really – they're good players, but they're not going to win you games on their own. So for Leeds, I think – I don't know where they go if Jesse Marsh goes, because I don't know who they're going to get in or whatever. I don't know if they've just got to prepare for the championship again. But, I mean – they got to do something because, yes, Fulham are an incredibly good team this year. At home, you should still be beating Fulham, in my opinion. Campo, what are your thoughts?
I just like Jesse Marsh. I don't want to see him go. He had something to the Premier League that you don't usually see.
Americans?
Yeah, it's good. Just keep him in there. Jesse Marsh to stay, in my opinion.
Just watch Ted Lasso when the new series comes out.
Oh, you just ruined the joke, Tony.
Well, there you go. It leads you into it then, Baxter. Talk to us.
I was just going to say, keep him in because I want to believe in this bloke, and he's the LeBron James of coaches in the EPL right now, so give him a lifetime.
I believe in him too. I believe he'll take Leeds to the championship and fulfill my dream for this season, so I'm all for it.
All right. Before we get into the final game, I wish this was the final game so we could end on it. Campo, Tottenham, 2-1 defeat at home to a high-flying Newcastle. Talk us through it.
It's weird. We didn't play like we did against United. We actually took it to them.
We scored a goal.
We created chance after chance. We should have scored at least 4 this game. Son, don't know what's happened to him. He's got 2 hands for feet. You can't find the target at the moment. But errors at the back constantly. We didn't play Romero, and it just shows that our defense is so weak without him in there. He's like a little Martinez, just full of aggression, makes tackles for fun. And I don't know about you guys, but that first goal, tell me if Wilson gets there first and flicks it around him, is Hugo not off?
No, I can attest. I also agree that I don't think that goal should have stood. I do think that just given the fact that keepers do get the right of way, they do get protected. I thought that goal was not going to stand, especially at Spurs Stadium. But no, it did. And it is harsh because I think if you're a Spurs fan, you're absolutely livid there. But
I'm not livid because it was coming with all the errors at the back. You saw Dyer pass it straight into the to pass Hugo Lloris and straight for a corner. Just stupid errors that they don't usually make. Hugo's distribution was terrible. Given Ryan Sessegnon 50-50s off a play out the back, it was just terrible. But again, another lovely goal from Almiron. Hugo could have got down there and saved it, should have saved it, but can't take anything away from them. They played well. Both teams played well this game, but they just got the rub of the green.
Yeah, look, you're spot on about Spurs backline without Romero, because I look at Longley, Davison Sanchez, and Eric Dyer, and I think Eric Dyer's turned a leaf. He's pretty decent now, but that's with Romero next to him. If he's got these 2 duds next to him, he's not going to be able to do much, and those 2 are just shocking. I don't know why you bother signing Longley. I think you signed him purely off the fact that he played for Barcelona, just like Emerson, because Emerson's terrible.
It was just a panic buy because we wanted Bastoni so badly, but he didn't want to leave Inter yet, so it was just panic.
Yeah, and then look at that midfield again, and you change one player, but again, Oliver Skip, he's not an attacking player. So it's still a very defensive setup, and you're just hoofing the ball to Kane and Son. And Kane has had a great season, very good season, but Son has done absolute crap all this season apart from a 15-minute hat trick. You just got to wonder why you kind of passed up on re-signing Eriksen, because you have a couple injuries. You've got the likes of Kulusevski out because he's kind of one of the only players who kind of looks like he's playing freely and can, get the ball from the back to the front. So to pass up on a player like Eriksen and then have to go and put out such defensive teams every week is pretty poor, I think, from a...
It's just his dodgy heart, man.
You told him before that.
Seems like he's doing all right for United, though.
Yeah, I know, but I think that's half of Conte's. His training's so intense it might not feel good on Eriksen's heart. Who knows?
Well, I suppose the fact that Conte would have been with Eriksen at Inter, so he obviously has reserved judgment on Eriksen as a player to begin with. So maybe that was more of a management decision than it was.
But he dropped him at Inter, so it was obviously he doesn't like something about Eriksen. So I would have taken him on a free. It's a fucking good attacking midfield option. So.
Baxter, now talk to us about Newcastle, mate. 4th spot on the ladder in the Champions League. Like you said, if they end it now, they're in the Champions League.
I'll agree with Campo. That first goal shouldn't have stood, even though it was great to see. Newcastle, they're the best up and coming team right now, and unlucky to take that L again, Campo.
I'm used to it. Don't worry.
Tony, talk to us.
Well, I don't actually know what Campo said for most of it, because while you guys were talking, I did pull up that replay and I watched it about 10 times. And I'd ask you to all go back and watch that, because do I think if you go based on past results, it would have got taken back? Yes. But if you actually go back and watch it, Wilson's going to the right. It's actually Hugo that sticks his arm out, and that's where the connection is actually made. He's coming forward. He's got all the momentum. He can't disappear. He tries to back away from it, and they collide. It's him taking a bad touch. He clears that, then he gets fouled. Fair play, but I think it's a goal. I honestly, if you go back and watch it after this podcast, you'll actually see he takes a bad touch, and as if he thinks that Wilson's going to put it over his head, he sticks his arm out. So go back and watch it, but I think it's a fair goal. And, Newcastle, they did this without, what's his name, Isak and St. Maxim, so it's going to be scary when you add them back into that lineup.
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason why it did stand, because it was more Hugo Lloris's own error, taking a bad touch. I think if he hoofs that out, they call that a foul straight away. Or if he doesn't even get to it to begin with, probably call it a foul. But the fact that he probably takes a poor touch, they probably think, it's your own fault kind of thing. You got yourself into that situation. We're not going to bail you out. But let's finish off with the last game. West Ham 2-0 over Bournemouth. The battle of the Clarence. This one. Tony, straight back to you. What are your thoughts? I want to say West Ham's turning a leaf, but they're kind of a bit inconsistent at the minute.
Good result. They needed it. They needed the points. Bournemouth, I kind of saw this coming, but I think majority of us did have them going down. So that's kind of what I expected from this game. I had a West Ham win, and that's exactly what happened. So fair play and move on, because for Bournemouth, it is starting to get a bit scary.
I don't know if you guys have seen this. You probably saw the result, that's for sure. But it was a Tuesday morning game, so I feel like Tuesday morning games just fly under the radar kind of thing. But that handball in the lead up to Kurt Zuma's goal, Campo, what are your thoughts? Should that goal have stood?
No, it shouldn't have. West Ham, this game got so damn lucky. It's not even funny. They didn't create any clear-cut chances. Zuma handballs it, and then that Bournemouth player is lunging out, and his hands go in the air. If you're full lunging for a ball, where do you want your hands to be? An automatic reaction is your hands are going up. And it's point-blank range. That is not a handball as a penalty. West Ham got kissed on the dick by the refs this game, and that's all. They got so damn lucky.
Oh, great. That's great. Baxter, thoughts? Agreed?
They sit top 10 at the moment, so good on the West Ham. But Bournemouth, a Parker-less manager at the helm. They keep dropping. They're going to see themselves in the relegation. It will be a battle for who goes down.
I think it's important for a team like Bournemouth, though, to have I mean, it's not a massive gap. It's only 4 points, but to have that kind of gap over the struggling Nottingham Forest, I suppose, at this time. So again, we've seen teams in the past how they've really carried their form into the end of the season, if you know what I mean. Like Southampton especially have done it a few seasons where their early start has thankfully kept them up, because had they have had maybe 2-3 weeks more in the Premier League, they're going down. So that might be Bournemouth. Even though it's very early still, that might be the way Bournemouth are sitting, which is, for them, very good. All right, well, that's where we're going to cut it for the episode. Baxter, thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, again, Morty didn't get on. Want to hear his thoughts on Liverpool because they're doing terribly. But it's great to have you on board. Campo's already gone. We've just passed the hour mark. Tony, thank you for being on, and we will see you all next week.